Topical discussion as we emerge from a dramatic election season that delivered shockers and surprises. Well, quite a number of members of parliament turned into casualties, while a number of newcomers are making their way into parliament for the first time. What are the key takeaways? What are the lessons? And what does the future of democracy hold? I'm joined this morning by Honorable Semujju Ibrahim Nganda, Member of Parliament, Kira Municipality. Call you outgoing.
I will conclude my term in May. I'm still MP for Kira Municipality.
Well,
until May.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
And I will be joined along the way by Emmanuel Dombolumala, Director Communications at the NRM Secretariat. Do you concede defeat?
I do.
What happened?
You campaigned to win, and I thought throughout the campaign that I will win. But the results came back when I had lost, and genuinely lost, and I conceded defeat.
Yeah, but hitherto you were deemed as a very powerful, one of the most powerful legislators. Did people betray you?
But they are the ones who have given me 15 years in parliament. So I cannot blame them. If in their judgment they think I should stop here, I thank the Almighty. And I will continue making a contribution towards the struggle for freedom, but this time outside parliament.
How about the dismal performance of PFF? Just two legislators, right?
First of all, we are a new party. We went into this election with our leader in prison, Dr. Kiza Besigye, without money. Every PFF candidate was on his own, and I am speaking now as the Secretary General of that party. We were, for the first time since I joined politics under FDC, unable even to raise money for nomination. So every candidate struggled on his own. We had set up a national campaign team. That national campaign team was unable, with the exception, I think, of Rukunjiri, was unable to move. But also this election is one that had been crafted carefully. People who had been earmarked to lose in many areas. For me, no, I don't want to blame the state or anyone. I lost genuinely there. But we have candidates who were cheated. You need to speak to Ingrid to now tell you what was in Rukunjiri and many of our other candidates. So we went into this election with the 9 MPs, only 2 incumbents, only 2 survived. But so are the other colleagues of other parties. We started this parliament when we were 32 FDC MPs. FDC now has 9. DP was about nearly 10, 8. They are 6. UPC, same number, about 10. NUP 57, they are now about 50. In total, we were 106 opposition MPs in parliament. We have now reduced to about 78. So there are many people, including very good MPs, I look at a person like Jonathan O'Doul. I don't speak about myself, colleagues like Segona, Pasari, and others. We were compensating our numeric disadvantage by competence, by experience. And I want to pray for the colleagues who are going to fill and play that role, because the numbers have reduced. We nearly gone back to about 5 years ago, but also the more experienced MPs have been exited by the electorate.
So the attrition rate is high, and the quality?
When you speak about quality, people get offended. But the truth of the matter is that some of the MPs who have exited, Segona, Mpuga, Asuman, Jonathan O'Doul, Sechikubo, and others, are MPs that even Parliament itself will miss. I like Jonathan O'Doul. He just finished law, but his knowledge was vast, more knowledgeable than people who have done law for 2 decades.
If you are to unpack this election,
yes,
you've participated in quite a number of elections. What was so unique or peculiar about it?
I think we've moved away from the election to something, I don't even know how to describe it. When I joined politics 2010, 2011, at least Museveni was allowing us to address rallies. That went away. You saw what Kaggwa went through. But also, I don't think Museveni played a direct role like he is playing today. The whole decision of using biometric machine was personal. He said he needed them. He had been convinced by his aides that he was cheated. So he said, now I want biometric machines to identify voters because non-voters were participating. And we spent more than 100 billion on those machines. He recruited 100,000 people that did not work. We kept asking these fellows, because the Electoral Commission, this was not an idea of Electoral Commission, and they were not prepared for it. Because if you're going to deploy machines, you have had a series of elections from youth to women. Use them to know their functionality, but also for people to get used to them. I mean, we keep buying phones here. The phone you've bought today will take you a week or two to learn it, because you are now switching. So they brought them. First, in my constituency, materials for elections were brought on Thursday, a week before elections. I went and witnessed. But they arrived at polling station 3 hours late. I kept calling everybody, from the returning officer to Wakiso to the one who is manning elections. A number of people went away because people are not patient. And many vote just because it is voting season. So the materials arrived late. You can imagine materials brought in Chira a week before, but they are arriving at a polling station at 9, 3 hours into voting, and then the machines are not working. I called Commissioner Tashobi and he told me, you have made a decision as the Electoral Commission to abandon the machine. But for them to communicate, it took 3 hours for that information to reach electoral officials. So voting in my constituency started at midday. People had left. That's why in the previous election, 2016, I got 45,000 votes in Chira. The last election, I got 47,000. This time, the winner had 21, I had 14,000. We have 200,000 registered voters. Less than a quarter participated. People went away because of the mismanagement of the exercise. So the elite like you who don't want to make a lot of sacrifice, all of them went away. So this is the most mismanaged election, at least.
Does the backstop with Byabakama, or it's...
Byabakama, I told the people, Byabakama is just the face. These elections are organized now directed by Museveni. It's not by Byabakama. The one who says, now I want a machine. And then the Electoral Commission should sit to provide a technical document for them to go and procure them. So Byabakama and his group were just a face. And I suspect the reason they delayed, they had to consult Museveni. Now your machine is, because we had them here on this TV. And they kept saying the machines will work. At every polling station, we have deployed 2. There are even reserves. We have 2,100 and something staff. We have even subdivided polling stations from the previous 35,000 to now 53,000. So everything, you ask them, if they don't work, they will work. Because Museveni had said, so he had decreed that I now want a machine. So the exercise was mismanaged, and then you go to the cheating itself. Cheating never witnessed. But in the by-election, we saw it. We were maybe just naive. I was in Soroti. I followed Kayunga, I wasn't there. So the cheating that happened, even since nomination started, NRM people being declared unopposed, removing people the way they like. And I want to emphasize, people don't think that I am saying I was cheated. For me, I wasn't cheated. Let them know that I am making this observation genuinely, because me, I was not cheated. But there are people who are cheated. Come to Kampala, go to all the areas. Even in Nambi, in Kawempe, who had 8,000, they wanted to beat the Electoral Commission officials for not announcing her against 30,000 votes.
I think she's still making a claim for a recount.
From where? So I think NRM people feel now entitled, even more entitled, because if you have cheated for some, why not me? Why are you cheating only for these ones? For me, what crime did I commit for you not to cheat me?
Honorable Semujju, yes. do you get a sense that there was some bit of voter fatigue and it explains why the turnout was low, beside the issue, the malfunctions of machines?
I don't even want to call it voter fatigue. The areas where the opposition is dominant, and you must give him credit, he has built a new alliance, strengthened it, an alliance of the north, east, and west against Uganda, where he has also, by the way, done very well. Throughout this campaign, and even before, it was evident that Museveni was going to perform better. He was even celebrating and proud. Going to do well in the north, going to do well in the east and in the west. Can you imagine in the whole of Western Uganda now, I think the only opposition MP is Gerard Karwanga, who also stood as independent. All opposition MPs eliminated. If you go to the north, in Acholi, I think you have only 3 FDC and a ward of PFF. I think the rest, in Acholi, you come to Rango, UPC is now at 10. Of course, Karamoja is always NRM. So to his credit, he had built that alliance by compromising leaders from the north, putting them in his government, and I think making resources available to them.
Could the opposition have slept?
The areas that ordinarily vote opposition, with the exception of the ordinary people who are swayed by the crowd because they have seen them here and don't go beyond the boundaries of their areas, I think majority of the elite and others knew that this election was finished. And then plus the violence, the way, the money and everything.
But was the mobilization of the opposition sufficient to hold the ground?
Of course, the opposition itself were going for each other. There are constituencies where the dominant opposition party visited numerous times at the expense of the areas outside those constituencies. In my own case, there are even celebrations by opposition for defeating Semujju, not NRM. Even the campaign was not a campaign against NRM, but a campaign amongst ourselves. Yes.
The opposition celebrated
the defeat of one opposition MP, not NRM. So the aggressiveness against each other. So we affected ourselves. But because the work we do it on behalf of the public, we will have to pick up pieces, regroup. I told the colleague who are calling me to commiserate Semujju, will miss you. And I said, you see, Semujju is just a small thing in this struggle. We need to sit down and evaluate ourselves now collectively as a group. Because the MPs have reduced the number of votes. Kyagulanyi has 2.4 million. In the last election, he had 3.6. Even with cheating, because you can't say that the 2.4 is because of cheating. Even last time, cheating was there. But at least they were cheating from something very big. That's why you were at 3.6. But the north, I don't know where we begin to pick it from. The north, the east. So the opposition...
Do you see any will to pick up pieces, learn from the bad experiences from all your colleagues across the opposition aisle?
We have to do so. I have friends who are FDC there in Teso. They called me to tell me their stories. One of them told me soldiers like Angina, the deputy to Muhozi, Okeding, and Erweru. He told me they took over my constituency. I had to be defeated by all means. And he proposed we need to have a conversation. I think when the dust has settled, and Because those who felt energy that they can do it by themselves will now know that you need each other. But also some of us are now almost getting fatigued. So the only role maybe we are going to be playing is to try to convene meetings and convince colleagues that we need to work together.
I get a sense when you say some of you are fatigued that you're winding up on elective politics.
Isn't that, not necessarily winding up, but it's natural. First of all, I think this is the last sort of election that we are having, similar in character to those that we have had before. The next election, if it ever happens, is going to be the worst in history. Because at that time, at 81 officially, because Museveni says he doesn't know when he was born, his children chose him a birthday in September, so he's officially 81. You're going to see an increased role by his son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba. I don't think under Muhoozi Kainerugaba you'll have an election. So we are going to deal with a completely new thing. A new thing. This is the first time that people are declaring themselves unopposed. Do you know what will happen in the next election? They are 17. Maybe the next election they will be 70 or 100. This is when people are cheating. Someone who has 8,000 wants to be announced against one who has 30-something votes. Others were calling, I've been told by a colleague who was in a Tare center in Kampala, that one of the candidates eventually declared a winner, called one of his groups. And they said, how many, what is the gap? About 2,000. Okay, give us about 40 minutes, we will be there. And then they were delivered. You see, General Munt used to tell us in FDC that when you do something wrong consistently, it becomes a culture. The culture now, cheating is a culture that NRM has nurtured, and NRM people who are not helped to cheat actually feel betrayed by their party. How comes these ones you helped them to be unopposed? How comes these ones you cheated for them? For me, why don't you cheat for me? So the motivation to cheat now is high. So the next election, because they began by cheating their own internal elections, then started cheating in the national election by becoming unopposed, by staffing ballots. I guess if you have elections, if you'll ever have elections again, every NRM person now feels entitled that they must cheat for me. And I think in their meetings they will be quarreling. You people, you are not good. Why did you cheat for only this one? And the style is different, because you see, Museveni operates completely different from his son and the new people at the table. I told the people throughout my campaign, if Museveni beats you, the following day he will put a commission of inquiry. First, you will not suspect because he has put a commission of inquiry. If his son beats you, he will be on social media celebrating in the mornings. So these are two different operators.
So would you say that perhaps the people who made it from the opposition side were simply lucky?
There are constituencies, in all elections, there are areas where they will not even attempt to cheat. But there are areas where the interest is there, that this one we will win, you like it or not. And because this is not Rwanda or Tanzania, that they want to cheat everybody. There are people they will not cheat, but because you see NRM, even when they are winning, they will want to cheat to exaggerate the percentage. So there are areas where they will cheat to make their percentage, because throughout the campaign they said they wanted to get 75%. Eventually they've settled at 71%. But that was being announced and propagated every day. So there are opposition MPs who were not cheated, where cheating did not happen, but there are also others where cheating happened.
I want to bring in Honorable Dombo. Honorable, good to catch up with you after the elections, and a very good morning. Would you write home this election as credible, free, and fair, with all the bullets that characterize the ballots?
Well, thank you very much, my friend Semujju in the studios, and good morning to our viewers. I'm pleasantly surprised that Honorable Semujju could pick up the spoils and he comes to the studio. I'm one person who is his admirer, who would have thought that we shall miss him because he has lost elections. But to pick courage and come to explain a few things, even when he's distorting many, to me, I think it gives us an opportunity to constructively engage in some of the things. Simon, getting to your question, I want to tell you that this is one of the most peaceful elections that I have witnessed. When we compare with the previous elections, when you look at the number of people who have died in the process, and when you look at the end of the campaign exercise, Honorable Bobby Wine came up to acknowledge that he has traversed the whole country. He has been ahead of all the presidential candidates, and he has met all the people that he wanted to meet. So, me, given the outcome and the protest and the promised protest vote, whose outcome I haven't seen apart from the protest of the voters, I would say this was a very credible election, although the commission owes us an explanation why the promised technology did not work. Because before Semujju leaves Parliament, they should put very hard questions to the Electoral Commission so that this go on record for those members of Parliament who are going to take over from them to ensure that progressively they either improve on the legislation, on the requirements for the Electoral Commission, to ensure that they can do better than they did this time. But all in all, we had a very good election and a very credible process.
Well, there are still contestations. One, on the numbers, and two, still we're looking at the character of elections where they may had a huge role. There was ballot stuffing, there are reports of stuffing. Do you see an improvement, or it is just a retardation of elections?
Going by Honorable Semujju's confession himself, he says he was not cheated and there were good elections in his place. That is what he has said. And I'm very sure that has happened in many places in Uganda. This election was observed and monitored. Let us wait for an opportunity to look at the observers' reports, because they are the ones who are moving up and across the whole country, only limited to Butaleja. One polling station where I was at Bugisu sub-region, which I was overseeing. I went to my polling center, voted, and then went to my operational area where I had been deployed to oversee. But generally, the elections were fair and fair because when you see what has happened, we have lost very important people in government who fell to the elections. The opposition has also lost very important people. I'm not losing them to NRM, but losing some of them to their fellow opposition and other independents. So generally, the elections have been very good. And an election held in a situation where some people threaten violence so that the election does not take place. In such a situation, therefore, you would expect the security people to do adequate deployment, but also apply reasonable force to ensure that those who want to vote get the opportunity to do so, which they did. When you look at the voter turn-up, yesterday when we were in Raktura with His Excellency the President, he said out of the 18 million voters, voters of NRM, only 80 million voters have voted. So he was asking us, where are the other 10 million? The good thing, we are there with members of parliament, with the leaders from Karamoja. Those ones say the Karamojongs are in Teso and northern Uganda looking for grass with their cows. So they didn't vote. Honorable Semujju has also told you that some people got tired and they couldn't wait for the biometrics. But for us, the national chairman has directed that we must conduct an official research to establish where the 10 million members of NRM who didn't vote, where they are, so that at the end of the day, we can organize better and mobilize better next time. Because our target, we thought we were going to get about 13 million votes. That was the conservative estimate. But see that we came out with about 8 million. That shows you that we still have more work to do. But to us as a party, we are grateful to our party structures and the party leaders. They did a good job in doing mobilization. Honorable Semujju.
You want to come in?
Honorable Semujju, in his submission, he seems to say that NRM only won because of cheating and ballot stuffing. I have not yet come across on either pictorial evidence or any assertions with clarity which alleges that that happened. In the areas that I voted and the areas that I supervised, we did not have any ballot stuffing. And we were able to beat Honorable Njala Mafavi in his polling center. We beat him in his polling in his district. And generally, President Museveni almost won in almost all districts. For us, NRM, this was a deliberate project. You saw things like Nganda Museveni. These were simple things that were happening. But you can see the outcome of what Nganda Museveni has done. The numbers in the Buganda have improved. The members of parliament who have been elected have improved. And the opposition, to me, I would advise them that other than hurrying to the media to begin making all sorts of allegations, they should go and do some soul searching and learn from the man in the heart, the old man with the heart, on how to govern a political party. We can arrange them a training in Chankwanzi so that they can learn some of the things on how to relate with one another. The way they have been disparaging one another, abusing one another in public, even in situations where they could just go behind the scenes and talk to one another, they chose to abuse one another as if there will be no consequences. Now the consequences have come out and they have nothing to say. And finally, the voters themselves, the voters have chosen to communicate. When you look at the outcome of this election, you can see that these are voters communicating directly about their dissatisfaction. Those members who are talking like Honorable Semujju, for them they go and they hobnob with the government, or they work with the government because they are members of parliament in the government, and they get salary, they get paid. But when you go to the members of the population whom they represent, unfortunately, many of them are not in any way better off. So the population has been wondering, why would these people tell us that they're in a struggle, but they go to receive PDM money, they go to parliament, they receive salaries. When they fall sick, they are treated by government abroad. Then they begin deceiving the population that there is a struggle to remove a dictator. Yet they are receiving facilitation from the same dictator.
Honorable Dombo, isn't it odd that you are praising your party for the victory in an election widely viewed as violent with a low turnout?
Widely viewed as violent? Would you really comment like that when you compare this election with that of last time? The previous election, by this time, we had over 60 dead bodies.
And this time?
Well, we are lying.
How many do we have?
We had a presidential candidate who was under incarceration. But this time, you have a presidential candidate who promised a protest vote, and the voters stand up to protest against him. So you cannot say that this was a bad election. There are areas which require improvement, but you cannot say that this was a bad election when you compare with some of the elections we have had in Uganda before.
Thank you. I want to bring in Honorable Semujju Nganda. Well, Honorable Dombo suggests that maybe it's time for the opposition to take up a few lessons on how to work together, plus, of course, several other submissions.
First of all, it's painful that you are arguing with a person as intelligent as Dombo on things that are obvious. Because about 20 years ago, Dombo was one of the MPs who formed a group to champion for democracy. And he never wanted Museveni to be a life president. What he parades as NRM political infrastructure is actually the state. That you have had Museveni going around using public resources to campaign under the guise of PDM. And then he goes for another round using state resources. Even Dombo, who works for NRM, I don't think he even knows where his salary comes from. Deep in his mind, he must know that his salary is part of. So you have a state-funded party, a state-run party, where the son of the president, who is a CDF, is engaged in politics, the military. You saw them. There are people who delivered NRM signatures to nominate Museveni, who are being carried by military trucks. So the whole state was deployed behind NRM to achieve this victory. The whole state, from military to police to prison to everything. And Dombo, in his mind, with his intelligence, he thinks this is NRM infrastructure. So his party is organized, so he wants other parties to go to Chankwanza and get trained. Just surrender a quarter of the state, and then you will see if NRM will survive even by 1 week. Just surrender. Let him surrender a quarter of the state, not all of it. Surrender a quarter of the state. We go in an election where the military is not beating anyone, they are not dispersing candidates, you are not using Bank of Uganda as NRM treasury, and see if NRM will survive. In this election, I am sure.
I think that allegation of using Bank of Uganda is gross.
I am sure that in this election, Museveni may have used more than 5 trillion in this election. Look, you journalists are not doing enough work. Even the money that has been channeled through NRM committees from district to the lowest, huge amounts of money. So this is an election in which vulnerable political parties are competing not against a ruling party, but are competing against the state. Misunderstandings are normal. Even in NRM, you had the vice president fighting with the speaker fighting with the prime minister, so on and so fighting. There are quarrels in NRM in each and every district. That's how Nabanja got slapped. Why doesn't Dombo first take Nabanja and his group that slapped him to Chankwanza before you come to take Semujju and someone maybe else? Then she gets slapped and an MP is arrested.
As we take a break.
These conflicts are normal. Every party will have a mechanism to deal with them. Don't attribute the loss of the opposition to conflicts. Attribute the loss of opposition to cheating, to using the state, because an election is not polling, like Dom wants to suggest, or even campaign itself. It starts much earlier, where people are not allowed to organize. You can't go to open an office. You can't address a rally. You need permission from people you're competing with to do any political activity. Today they will stop you, tomorrow they will allow you. The referee is a player. When you score, he will cancel. So, Dombo, you cannot, with your level of intelligence, you cannot be proud. And please stop comparing us to the worst, that this election is better because the last one was worse. And that's your judgment, Dombo. A person as intelligent as you that for this one to be a good election, you have to compare it to the very worst. And then you say, oh, this one is very good, because last time there were 60 bodies, now there are few. And therefore, for you, that's a mark, that's a judgment. Please, we cannot compare. But in NRM, it works. That's why Museveni can only compare himself to Idi Amin, but he can't compare himself to countries that have developed.
You heard the president say that if 10 million who never turned up for this election had actually voted, Museveni is still convinced that NRM has 18 million voters. Doesn't this suggest that...
You see, even the ones that they have, we didn't have audit. Because I think in many years, this is the highest number that Museveni has gotten.
7 million, 7
yes.
point.
He's been winning with 5.4. Today, even with the low turn-up, he has 7. The NRM register is a fictitious one. That's why you're talking about 18 million, and you're saying only 8 turned up. Because those numbers were never there. I have told you here many times, in Kawembe, when Nambi lost a by-election, Museveni kept asking those Dombos and others. He said on the NRM register, I have 20-something members. Damulira, because he says NRM, Museveni was even referring to Damulira, who is now, I think, a Major General in charge of crime intelligence at police. He says Damulira has ghetto structure, 100 per polling station. How comes the NRM person has 8,000? Nambi, even again, today she has 8,000. And Museveni was quarreling. So the numbers are not there. And any sane person knows that these numbers are not there. Dombo, the numbers will not be there because you are shouting them almost at every radio station and television. They are not there. So the turn up. Sane person. Yes. There is no sane person who believes that NRM has 18 million members registered. There is nobody.
Let's take a very short break, and when we return, we'll still be interrogating the numbers. Welcome back as we continue counting the cost of the recently held election. Well, at the end of the day, what is the big takeaway? And what lessons does the country have to pick from an election that was characterized by hiccups, the hitches by machines, technical glitches, and then pockets of violence here and there.
TV. That when it comes to procurement, because I told him the machines will not work. And I think we were on front line. Said, remember, they were given billions to go and buy limousines for Chogam, and they never worked. Instead of bringing money, they were bringing automatic. And I said, don't worry, the machines will not work. The one who was assigned to go and buy, now he must build an apartment somewhere.
Well, Honorable Dombo, as we count the cost, do you want to take it that as we speak today, NRM enjoys a comfortable stronghold in parts that were hitherto opposition?
But before I respond to that, I wanted to tell my brother, Honorable Semujju, when you look at the numbers that he got last time himself, and you compare with the numbers that he got this time, would you say that those people are not there because those who voted for him are lesser? Those numbers are there, but the voter turnout has been very poor. In NRM, we have those numbers, but every area has got its own peculiarities. I told you in Karamoja during the drought, even when the biometric machines refused, the Secretary General had to mobilize a few shillings in order to hire boarders to go and bring back the many Karamojongus who had already shifted with their cows and goats. The few had come to vote. The majority did not vote because the drought is affecting them and they have since shifted. They are not there. In many places, we have various challenges. But looking at the areas that we have been working on, why would, for instance, Central, here in Buganda, why would the number of votes from President Museveni, the performance improve, but also the members of parliament who are elected in Buganda are more. This is because the voters are making a statement. I want to tell you, Bwana Njala and Semujju, I've told the population, people go to parliament because parliament is a job. They go there to work and earn money. You have heard Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi saying he's a rich man. He doesn't this. Even the Honorable Segona said it. Show me how many chambers of coffee they have. Show me the farms that they have. Some of them who have established the estates which they have, the houses they have built. It's because they have earned their wealth through parliament. They have only been deceiving their voters that they are going to parliament to fight President Museveni, whom they have never met. So for them, the voters have only discovered that these people promised heaven, they have delivered hell, and for them they are better off, while the voters are getting worse. The voters want good roads, the voters want clean water, the voters want income in their pockets, like the MPs themselves, they have income, and the voters also want income. Those are the things that the voters want. This is a statement which has been deliberately worked on through the delivery of government services and delivery of government programs like PDM, providing water, explaining where we lost, but also our leaders do better or promising to do better than they did last time. And I want you, when President Museveni prophesied and he said in such and such a period, opposition will be no more, this is what exactly he meant. I want to tell you that in the next election, inshallah, the opposition is going to be decimated because there is nothing new that they are offering.
Do you see the opposition now on the trajectory of going completely?
You see, as I said, you get disappointed when a lazy argument like that one comes from a very intelligent person, because Dombo is. Dombo now wants to blame MPs for the poverty in the country because the MPs are earning a salary. Look, let's look at figures. Parliament, I think now, its operations and salaries and everything is about 1 trillion shilling, the whole of Parliament. Museveni alone, in State House, he has 1 trillion shilling. So the amount of money that Museveni has at his disposal, the amount that runs that entire Parliament. We have a 72 trillion budget. Half, last financial year, 48% of that budget was going to pay debts, including debts of private people, like Magola, Pineti, Amina, and so on and so forth. Really, anyone sensible who reads, you can't make those arguments that because MPs are earning a salary, people are getting worse, and therefore the reason MPs fail election because they are the ones who have failed. Don't we have a government? So if the roads are broken in my constituency, are they my direct responsibility? Do I collect taxes? Do MPs, so does don't want to tell us that the infrastructure, social services in the NRM areas represented by NRM are good because they are not fighting a dictator? Is that the point he was making? That in the areas where where MPs are NRM, the infrastructure is good, the roads are good because for them they are not fighting a dictator, they are concentrating on provision of social services. You get disappointed, but you see in Africa it happens. I told you here, Chombo, who was finance minister in Mugabe's government, he had a master's degree from London School of Economics, but they were packing dollars in sacks and keeping them in their bedrooms. Someone who had studied economics at London School of Economics, a person like a Dombo, former commissioner of
think you're getting personal.
one of the best MPs, you can't come on TV and you are blaming the poverty and the breakdown of infrastructure on MPs. Even the last time we made a budget, did Museveni shift money from buying of ambulances, construction of surgical wards, to paying Magola's debt, and he said that Parliament must restore my priorities. Dombo, maybe many NRM MPs. Some of us went to Parliament when we were already working. Where I stay, it is land I bought when I was working in the media. Segona, his house, I know it. He constructed it as a lawyer. So please stop belittling us and thinking that going to Parliament, the motivation is just a salary.
Yeah, but he's a former legislator himself, and he was a commissioner.
Yeah.
So maybe he's speaking from
let him tell us whether
the background of being factual.
So that he went to Parliament just because there was a salary. And that's what took Dombo to Parliament. And that's why he has ended up with himself, because there is softer, you get a salary with no accountability. Please, Dombo, you are directly misdirecting a debate, misleading the country, shielding himself from responsibility. Himself is the chief executive. He makes all the decisions, including roads that are supposed to be done.
He also says something very critical.
Yes.
That the opposition is on the way, on the downtrend.
In Tanzania, Samia Suluhu got 98%. In Rwanda, it's the same percentage. So Dombo is very proud that in Tanzania, that's the trend they have taken. And he proclaims that next election will even be worse. We will be at par with Tanzania, with Rwanda, not closer to Kenya, where at least leadership changes. And I don't think the Dombo, I know that he believes in what he's saying, because that Dombo espouses democratic values. But the job he has now to speak from 7, he has to speak like a robot. I think they must have put a recorder in his head, and it's not Dombo talking about a recorder. Because the thing is, he says, they make him look like a, I don't even know.
Yeah, but so what is obtaining now is that the opposition has lost ground in strategic strongholds.
Look at the circumstances. An intelligent person, you cannot celebrate fraud. Samia Suluhu has 98% of the vote. Should she go on the street and celebrate? Or Kagame, who gets 98%? So Museveni jumps from about 50-something to 71, and Dombo thinks that is something worth celebrating. Egypt, Mubarak, before he left, he had 98%. Look at the circumstances. How much of the state are you deploying for Museveni to achieve this? Dombo, you get paid a salary. You're not an MP. Are you also misleading the public? The amount of money they pay you is taxpayers' money collected, and you're not the only one, but all of you. If all of us wanted to join you, we will come there, I become your deputy of director of communication, and I also earn a salary. Please, stop misdirecting.
Well, Honorable Dombo, you might need to come in here to make a response. Do you think it is quite inappropriate to say the opposition is getting decimated? You seem to suggest that the Tanzania way is preferable for the country.
Well, I haven't said so. I haven't even referred to Tanzania. I've only referred to the basic facts that I'm aware of. I've even given examples of individuals here. The people who refused the Semujju honorable preferred Musisi. Musisi is not NRM. The people who threw away honorable Segona did not vote NRM. The people who threw away honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, who were supporting our NRM, but we lost. Only that the numbers in Butambala improved. And this shows you that the people of Uganda are tired of rhetoric, empty promises, and deceit by the politicians who deceive them that they are going to government to fight Museveni, when actually they are going there to further their interests as individuals. What the people, the voters are saying, that they want good roads. Museveni may not know all the bad roads wherever they are. The members of parliament are the ones who are supposed to represent their areas. They come to parliament and tell them what is happening in those areas. For me, I was never a minister when I was in the government. But I want to tell you that all parishes in Butaleja, we have elected. Because I did my work as a member of parliament, and I told the government the problems that were happening there. Right now, the people of Butaleja need a Tamaka road. The members of parliament and the leaders are yearning to government to ensure that the Tamaka road should be constructed. Yesterday, President Museveni, when he was addressing the nation, he said we must deal with the poverty. Because when people are poor, they are easily manipulated, they can be influenced, and they can be bought by 10,000, which cannot even buy a fish. So we must support government programs for poverty alleviation so that the people of Uganda can be better off. Unfortunately, many members of parliament in the opposition, they don't support these programs when themselves are benefiting from government, which they claim to be fighting. This is what I'm telling you, that going forward, Honorable Semujju, let us go behind the scenes, work with NRM to ensure we fight poverty in Uganda, we ensure the younger people get jobs. You support government programs like the Magola one, where they are investors and creating wealth. When they create wealth, they create jobs. When we do that, our people will be better off, Ugandans will be better off, and then they will be able to vote you back in parliament.
Thank you. Let me bring in Honorable Semujju. Honorable.
I think Dombo needs to be taken to some Chankwans to learn. Look at the budget. We have 10.5 million households in Uganda. The average size of a household is about 4-point-something people. According to government figures, 3.5 million households are poor. If you divide that by the person per household, you're talking about 14 million. Look at the budget. A budget of 72 trillion. Only 1 trillion is devoted for poverty alleviation under PDM. 1 trillion.
To deal with 14
million people. Museveni alone has 1 trillion. And then you are spending another trillion on parliament. But here, NRM people are like sloganeering. They are like robots. When they tell them to say something, they will say it aggressively to make it like it is the truth. So you have 14 million people who are poor. Every year you are spending 1 trillion to get them out of poverty. And Museveni is spending 1 trillion on himself with 260 vehicles, with 2,060 workers, including 94 cooks. And then you are saying, let us support. So what do I support? So I support that you continue deploying 1 trillion to deal with 14 million people who are poor.